At 24, I had $96,000 in debt, and flash forward to today at 34, I have $714,548 invested. So today I'm going to show you every single investment that I own and how you can build the same exact thing starting from wherever you are today, even if you are still in debt. So hopefully you're starting from a better position than I was at $96,000 in debt. That debt was made up of $63,000 in student loans, a $21,000 auto loan, about $8,000 in credit card debt, and then a $4,000 personal loan. And so let me talk to you a little bit about what it looked like to get rid of that debt, because I think that this is a really helpful foundation for people that are in debt or people that just don't feel like they have a lot of money to invest right now. Step one for me was picking up every side hustle that I could find. I did brand ambassador work, I walked dogs, I sold my blood plasma, I even would sign up for random gigs that I'd find on Craigslist. Now, obviously you can focus on increasing your income, but you should also focus on spending less money. For me, that meant moving in with 5 roommates. The average 1-bedroom right now rents out for about $1,600 a month, and the average 3-bedroom rents out for about $2,400 a month. That means that simply by just getting 2 roommates, you could save $800 a month. Now, the other thing that I did was I traded in my car for a paid off van. And even today, I drive an $8,000 Honda Civic, even though technically I am a net worth millionaire. You may end up having a repair each year with an older car, but I promise you a $1,500 repair costs a lot less than a $500 a month car payment. Those are likely your 2 biggest expenses, and for me, making those changes alone helped me save $1,000 a month. Now, step 3 is to start focusing on more of the smaller expenses. This is probably stuff that you're already thinking about, but that's gonna be meal prepping, cutting subscriptions, cutting out the DoorDash, cutting out the online shopping. These are probably some of the harder habits to cut, but they're also the fastest things to cut. And all the money that you save in steps 2 and 3, that's gonna be money that you either use to pay off all of your debt, focusing on the smallest debt first using the snowball method, or this is gonna be money that now you are going to save and invest. Because ultimately, if you want to get to $715,000 invested, you're gonna need to invest quite a bit of money every month. Doing all this allowed me to be debt-free by the time I was 26, 2 years later. That meant that I was able to pay off $100,000 in debt in basically 2 years, just following these 3 steps. So before I walk you through my exact portfolio, I just wanted to explain the thinking that goes on behind it. When I first started investing, I thought that it just meant picking the right stocks at the right time, and that was it. I'd buy some of the biggest names out there, Amazon, Microsoft, Tesla, Nvidia, and I truly convinced myself that I could outsmart the market. But I also picked a ton of losers. Companies like Smile Direct Club, Canopy, PayPal, all were major losers for me. And here's the honest verdict. I either lost to the market or I would barely beat it. And the worst part is it cost me a ton of time and attention just to do that. Those are hours that I could have spent building something actually meaningful or just enjoying my life. I swear some people treat picking stocks like a side job when they really should just be going and getting an actual side job. Now, look, I still hold some of these positions, and I'll show you exactly how much later on in this video, but I'm gonna be honest, I haven't bought a single share in an individual company in the last year. Instead, my philosophy is really built on this. I want the money that I work hard for to work hard for me. I don't want to babysit that money, and I really don't feel like checking it every single day. Instead, I would rather work hard on things that I know can help bring in more income that I can then push into the market and continue to invest. And that's why you're gonna see that the vast majority of my portfolio is invested in index funds, not stocks. But maybe you don't care about any of that stuff, so let's just jump into what my portfolio actually looks like and where that $714,000 is actually invested. So the largest position in my portfolio is FXAIX. It's about 37% of the portfolio. Now, that's actually invested across 3 different accounts. It's invested in my 401k, my wife's solo 401k, and my wife's IRA. And the reason why we picked FXAIX is pretty simple. All 3 of those accounts are with Fidelity, and we don't plan on touching any of the money in all 3 of those accounts for the next 26 years because they're all retirement accounts and we'd get penalized if we did. But additionally, FXAIX offers low fees and broad exposure, which is really perfect if you're just trying to set it and forget it. And typically you can expect 11% yearly returns from this index fund. Now, the second largest position in our portfolio is a very similar index fund. It's called VU. It's Vanguard's S&P 500 index fund. Together, that means that 60% of our portfolio is invested just in S&P 500 index funds. And that money is mostly contained in my IRA, as well as it's invested in a taxable brokerage account. And like FXAIX, it averages about 11% per year. It has broad exposure and it has very low fees. The rest of the investments I'm going to talk about are all in taxable brokerage accounts. What that means is that all of my retirement money and my wife's retirement money is invested 100% in S&P 500 index funds. And so for a lot of you, if you wanted to keep this very, very simple, you could just stop the video here and go invest all of your retirement savings in S&P 500 index funds. I'm not a financial advisor. Don't take that as financial advice. But that is what a lot of people do with their money. So the third largest position is an index fund that's called QQQM. Now, this index fund just tracks the NASDAQ 100, which is just 100 very innovative, high-growth companies. And this is an index fund that I invest in because it offers a lot of upside potential. It's a lot more volatile than investing in the S&P 500, but there are plenty of years where it goes up over 30%. Next on the list is VXUS. VXUS is simply everything that's outside of the United States. It's an international index fund. And to be honest, a lot of people skip this because international markets have lagged behind the US, but it's really hard to say if that's going to continue. And I don't have a crystal ball, so I like to diversify my portfolio and kind of bet on the fact that things might change over time. And I wanted to call this out because this is actually a part of my portfolio that I'm probably growing the most right now. My goal is to get this to be about 20% of our entire portfolio. Now I'm gonna lump 3 investments into this next piece because they make up about 4% of our portfolio. It's VO, VB, and VUG. These are actually recommendations from the financial advisor that I work with. They're large cap, small cap, and high growth funds. They're honestly not core to my strategy, and so if you're a new investor, I probably wouldn't recommend breaking off a part of your portfolio to invest here. But I will say I am trying to get this to be about 10% of our total portfolio. Now I'm gonna pause here for a second because all the investments that I talked about, I continue to add to. I'm still adding to S&P 500 index funds, I'm still adding to QQQM, and I'm adding to international and some of these small cap funds. Altogether, that's $585,000 of our portfolio. But next, I wanted to actually walk you through the investments that I'm no longer adding to. I want to talk to you about why I actually invested in them in the first place, why I have chose not to sell them, and why I'm no longer investing in them. The first one is SCHD. This is probably going to be an index fund that a lot of people want to debate me on. It's a pretty popular index fund that really focuses on dividend investing. It offers a 3.5% dividend if you hold it. And a lot of people feel really good when they're getting dividends. They feel like they're getting gains from the fund and they're getting a little bit of a kickback as well. It's almost like getting a paycheck for holding your investment. The problem is, in a taxable brokerage account, that does get treated like a paycheck and you get taxed on that dividend, even if you reinvest it. And so again, technically you would get a 3.25% dividend from holding this. And if you reinvest it, the fund averages about 10.9%. So about the same as an S&P 500 index fund. But due to the taxes on the dividends, your returns would actually drop to 9.4%. Again, that's gonna depend a little bit on your tax rate. And so I did stop adding to this fund. I'm not gonna sell it, but I don't plan on adding more to this fund anytime soon. Now next, we have individual stocks. The top stocks are Tesla, Nvidia, Microsoft, Amazon, and Google. I am holding 19 other stocks, but I'm not gonna even mention them because I just don't think they're worth investing in. I actually used to have a lot more stocks, but I decided to sell off a lot of those just due to tax loss harvesting. I haven't sold these companies, but again, I'm not adding to them and I haven't bought a single share in over a year. But you might wonder, why don't I just sell this $68,000 in stocks and then add that money to the index funds? The problem is if I sold Tesla, I would make a profit of $2,800 alone just on that. If I sold Nvidia, I'd make a profit about $3,300. And if I sold Google, I'd make a profit of about $4,000. Altogether, when you factor the capital gains tax on selling those, I'd have to pay about $2,800. So not really worth it. And honestly, understanding the implications of moving in and out of these trades helped me understand that even if you beat the market by 1%, when you factor in your taxes, you probably lost to the market. We're gonna talk about where I keep the final 21,000 or the final 3% of our portfolio, and that is in Bitcoin. And again, I wanna be really clear, you should not copy this part of the portfolio. If you're building your portfolio from scratch, none of these three final options are where you should be starting off. And I'm not saying that Bitcoin is a bad investment. I wouldn't be holding it if I thought it was a bad investment. But again, it's 3% of my portfolio. And so if you had $500,000 invested already and you wanted to take 1 or 2% and put that into Bitcoin as a speculative investment, I would totally agree with you on doing that. But if you're starting from scratch, you want to just be focusing on really boring investments and building your foundation. So now that we've talked about where I am today, why don't we talk a little bit about the 3 things that if I could go back in time, I would tell younger Dan not to do. The first one is just not to build your foundation from individual stocks. In 2021, there was a massive sell-off of tech stocks. And because I was so loaded in these individual stocks, many of these just got completely taken out, down like 60, 75%, and have never fully recovered. That's just money that I completely lost. To win with individual stocks, you have to be right twice. You have to be right when you buy it, and you have to be right when you sell it. And most people, including myself, are not going to be right twice. And again, even if you are, you still have to factor in the tax implications. Okay, the second thing that I would tell Dan is don't wait for the right time to invest. If I had waited for things to feel stable in the market, I would still be waiting. In the 8 years that I've been investing, I've seen 4 market crashes. And guess what? Every single time, the market rips back up. But also, if you're waiting for a crash, you're gonna miss all these gains that happen along the way. And really, number 3, the most important thing is to get the foundation right that I was talking about in the beginning of this video. Because truly the best way to win with investing is just to be consistent. And you can only be consistent if you're investing money that you don't need. So that means that you make enough that you don't need that money and that you're not spending all of your money with these major expenses as well as these minor expenses. And so you need to live within your means and you need to make a budget. That way you can understand how much money you can actually invest without it impacting your life. And I promise, even if you feel like you have absolutely nothing to invest today, if you focus on those first 3 steps that I talked about to build your foundation, you will be able to unlock at least something that you can start your investing journey, even if it's just a couple $100s a month. Now, wherever you are right now, here's what you're gonna do next. Okay, the first tier, this is for someone that's maybe still in debt, but wants to invest something, maybe $100 or $200 a month. For you, don't overthink this. Take that $100 and put it all into one fund, a broad fund like VU, VTI, or some other broad index fund. The goal for you isn't to build some perfect portfolio right now. The goal is simply to just become someone who invests on a regular basis. And make sure that you do all the investing inside a Roth IRA, that way you're getting all the tax advantages. Tier 2, this is for the person that doesn't have debt and is trying to invest like $1,000 a month. For you, you can start being a little bit more intentional. You can actually break your money out so that 60% goes to S&P 500 index funds, 25% international, and 15% a growth fund like QQQ or QQQM. With that amount, you should 100% be trying to max out your IRA and investing the rest into an HSA or your 401k. And tier 3, if you do have $5,000 or more that you can invest on a monthly basis, you might be surprised about what I'm gonna say, but you should split it up the same exact way, 60, 25, and 15. But again, I would prioritize getting that money into your Roth IRA as well as other tax advantage accounts. You can contribute $7,500 to an IRA and $24,500 a year to a 401k. So if you're investing $5,000 or more, you'll probably exceed both of those, and you will have to start investing into a taxable brokerage account. This is also the amount where if you did want to take 1 or 2% and put it into something speculative, that would totally make sense. And I would do that based on something that you really know and understand. So if you have no idea how Bitcoin works, maybe that's not what you're going to be investing in. If you know something about the financial services industry or something about the pet industry, maybe that's where your speculative investments would be. And then once you've got your framework in place, automate it. Get yourself out of the way. When I was first investing, I was taking $1,000 a month, and it was incredibly time consuming because I was trying to time the market, I was trying to pick the right stocks, I was reading up on the news and when to buy a stock and when to sell it. It was a waste of my time. Instead, set up automatic deposits from your bank account to the right accounts that we were just talking about. Then set up automatic purchases within that account to the index funds that we also were just talking about. The whole process will probably take you 15 minutes. And then you're done. That's it. And once you automate it, you don't even have to think about it anymore. The money leaves your account, it goes into the market, and then you just go about your life. It removes the decision that you need to make to actually invest your money. It removes the friction that's involved. And honestly, that decision point is why a lot of people don't have as much invested as they'd like. Now look, $714,000 invested does not make me the richest man alive. But what it has allowed me to do is it allowed me to quit my job and go and pursue passion projects. Because at 34, if my wife and I never were to invest another dollar again, by the time that we hit 60, that would grow to about $4.2 million. Which coincidentally is actually our retirement number. And I just share this because I hope that this video gave you some direction on how you can do something similar, where you could actually retire early, or that you could go work on something that brings you purpose and use that to pay your bills instead of working a job that maybe you hate.